Hi friends, I'm Pam and welcome to A Scrappy Little Joy. If you are new here, this is where we settle in and take our time and work on quilt projects, quilt blocks, quilt tutorials, sewing tutorials, all sorts of things that we have coming up ahead. But it's where we just sort of slow down and try and take the hustle out of life a little bit when we're learning to strengthen as sewists. And right now, today, we are at block 16 of our Weekly Whim project. And this is every Wednesday here at A Scrappy Little Joy. I bring you a new quilt block, and we are creating a quilt project one block at a time. In other words, all different size blocks, and we are putting them together sort of bravely, but learning how we can nuance different blocks together in different places to create a quilt one block at a time. So this is, as I said, our block 16. And friends, I'm so excited about it. Look at this. Isn't it great? For all of you who have been so patiently awaiting what the greens idea was. In other words, I've been saying, hey, hang on to your greens. We're going to need our greens coming up. Well, here we are. We needed a little tree, I thought, for the season as we begin our season, but it just feels like the perfect fit for the process that we have going on with our sweet little blocks. Anyway, I have injected some extra fabrics. Also, our box, I didn't carry it with me this time because I had a lot to carry, but this is where we store all of the fabrics that we're working with for all of our blocks. These are some of them. We store them in our box so that every week when we want to prepare for our next block, then we can either source from that box or maybe add fabrics in. So these are all of the fabrics that I'm using for this block, if I'm being honest, and many of them are fabrics that are already in my box. But you will also see, like, all of these have already been seen in our box or in my quilt for the ability to scatter these fabrics sort of across the quilt to make the scrappy feel sensical, if you will. That's always my favorite word, sensical. I don't think it's a word, but you know what I mean. Anyway, and I've also added a few extras because I like my scrappies for backgrounds, etc. And of course, I had to bring in some of my a song to sing fabrics that are just new in shops. For our lovely friends at Andover Fabrics, I always like to shout them out because they're a wonderful company to work with. Lastly, I wanted to bring these by. Remember, these are our washable DIY design mats. And I wanted to just remind you, if you haven't seen the tutorial or if you want to go back and revisit it, friends, this is a great gift idea at this time of year. This is the season of giving. So if you are looking for a fun little project to whip up and make for the sewist in your life, right here, and I will put the link below to that tutorial so that you can catch it if you're looking for a little something for somebody. Okay, I'm gonna put those there. I'm gonna set our sweet little tree block over here. Did I say this block is called a tree for our journey? Okay, and so remember, always our cutting instructions are found below. It's a link to my blog where all of the cutting instructions can be found for our Weekly Whim blocks and anything else that we have going on here at A Scrappy Little Joy. We always tuck that right over there. Here are our pieces. What we have, friends, is quite a few. I've used all greens for the most part. You can choose what you like. Well, this is your quilt, friends. Make it jive with whatever your vibe is feeling like. What we're going to start with is unit. We're going to take A and B. We're going to start with those, but you're going to want to stick with me on this one as we get toward the tail end, because there is a block that I don't want, or a unit that I don't want to say is tricky, but it's going to take me guiding you through, but I know you're going to be successful. It's going to be an amazing tree. I can't wait to see all of your trees at our Facebook group. Okay, I am going to take my bottom, the fabric A that I planned for my bottom tree bough, and then I'm going to get my my squares, my fabric B squares. Mine are a bunch of different ones. You may have all of this being the same fabric if that's what you choose for your background. That's good too. This is whatever you whatever works um, for your design, your style. Okay, I am going to place. I have drawn a diagonal line on the back of all of my fabric B squares, and I'm going to just grab each of my units here that I planned, and I'm going to lay them on top, and you can see my diagonal lines are going to go like this, right sides together. We're going to sew them. We're going to sew on that diagonal line on both sides. I'm going to just pull this one. I'll leave that right there set so I know right which one I'm going to use. I'm going to start on this side rather than the point. It's just a little bit easier on my, I just threaded Jane so I don't have a leader and ender there. I don't know what I was saying. You may notice a little brightness from outside. It snowed a lot. So right outside my window, everything is white. And so I always love that look. I have new snippers too. Okay, so there is that side. Let me snip my thread here. And then let's put this one on this side so that we're able to sew on that diagonal that way. Then we'll get to kind of what's next for the similar units. I don't know if you've been paying attention to some of my shorts. I've been trying to share a little bit more about different ways that I'm working to sort of keep things in perspective this holiday season. It gets so hustly and bustly, right? And I'm really just working so hard to just keep it cool and keep it chill and keep the spirit of the season, which is a lot of different things to a lot of different people. But I do know. So now what I'm going to do is cut 1/4 of an inch on the outside. I'm going to do it this way so that you can see it. On the outside, we're going to cut off that ear, that little triangle, half square triangle. Anyway, I do know one thing, that even though there's a lot going on, even though we like to do our shopping and we like to do other things, need to be really taking care of ourselves, because I can tend to get lost in all the busy stuff and then miss all the meaning and miss all the fun while I'm rushing around. I'm going to press toward the triangles, okay? For those. I've set my bobbin over here because I've just run out of bobbin thread. I am going to get, remember that 20-inch piece of cardboard I found, that great big piece? I did make a design mat for it. And I don't need it often, but I need it on a project like this because this is 9 by 20. So I'm going to put this guy right down here. We're going to have a little something there. And now I'm going to get all the rest of my fabric A pieces, and I'm just going to line them up here on my board, on my mat, whatever it is you call yours. And then I'm also going to gather all of the other, I'll scooch that just a little bit, all of the other fabric B squares, and let's just line them up. And again, I don't know how you have yours configured, but I'm just gonna line them all up the same way. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get one side organized so that I can run that through, and then we'll come back and put it on the other side. Otherwise they're flapping all over the place. So then this one goes like this. One friend was so kind to give me such a nice compliment. She said, I love how you show the fabrics, the pieces facing you and not me. She was saying that it faces the camera or faces your point of view. And I hadn't thought about it much, but I think that's because I have so many multiple views. I know that I'm talking to you here, but I also know that there's a shot down as well, and it just feels right to do it that way. So I thank you for that compliment. That was that helps me to know that's helpful. So now what I'm going to do is just keep going. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to sew on those lines, and then I'm going to sew the other ones on. We can easily just put these where they go real quick. And then when we are ready, once we get these all sewn into place, we can switch and get these all sewn into place. And then we can take those 1/4 inch trim off. You want to set those aside because this is going to get real full. If you want to use those and save those for later for little half square triangles, you can. But let's go ahead. I will sew mine and you can sew yours to get this step done, and we'll also press as well toward those triangles, and we'll let Mr. Woods zippy zip through this part of the video so that it's a little bit easier for us to get to that next part, which is going to be that one block that's a little bit more involved, or that one unit that's a little more involved. So you get started with your steps, and we will come back here when all of these units are just like this, okay? Okay, now we can pull our board back over, mat back over, and lay out where we want all of our little bow friends to go. Excuse me. Let's see. Oh, this one goes here and this one goes here. Okay, so what's up next is that let's go ahead and do our trunk part, our trunk unit. I'm making my trunk purple. Normally, I'm such a literalist, you know, and I'm always making things just as they should be. Green tree, for instance. But today I just thought, you know, I'd like to have, I don't really have any brown already, and I could have injected brown, but I didn't feel like doing that. So I made my trunk purple. So let's go ahead and sew our fabric F units to our fabric E square. And we're just gonna do let's do a scant 1/4 inch here, because this is a lot going on in this block. We could do a 1/4 inch here, but since we're already really doing scant for the rest, let's just go ahead and keep things consistent. So if you've been watching my videos, I've been sharing that I happened to mention to Mr. Woods recently that gosh, it would be really nice. It would be so nice if my sewing machine in my studio proper, she still doesn't have a name yet. I'm working it out. But I said it'd be so nice if my sewing table, if my machine could be flush to the table, right? And Mr. Woods has made so many tables and all kinds of things he's just very, very he's very, very clever and helpful. And I just mentioned that. Well, what's he doing? He's making me a table. I have been using a desk. It's just been an old desk. Not an old desk. It was new once, but it's not ideal, right? And anyway, so he's making that for me, and I'm so excited. He's out in the garage right now working on it. I'm going to go ahead and press. I could press toward the middle, or I could press them open. It really is up to you. Maybe I think I'll press open because I like to do that. Also, friends, when we talk about pressing open, one of the things you can do if you're concerned about having those open seams, you can just tighten the stitch length on your machine so it's a little bit smaller, your stitches are just a little bit closer together, and then that makes for, no stress or worry. I usually do that, I suppose, with my machines. They're already kind of preset. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we are going to sew all of these units together. This to this, this to this, this to this, this to this, and we are going to, let's do that. You can do yours, I'll do mine. Mr. Woods can zippy zip right here, and then we'll come back together and we're ready to press, and then we'll talk about this top bow as well. So, okay. this, right? Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so while we are pressing this, let's go ahead and talk about our final bough, tree bough. I'm going to press, probably the most comfortable way to press these, my friends, is toward the long, wide seam here, right? A long, wide piece of fabric here. So let's press all of these units going up, okay? Makes it the most comfortable seam. I'm just gently, remember, trying not to stretch, but I'm just hovering over with my iron. For those of you who are new, I like to make sure I share those little tidbits. So I think of us all kind of growing together, and some of you have been with me since the very beginning. And I also have new friends coming in. I like to make sure that I'm giving you the care that you need. I've had several people ask me about a beginner quilting, like from the beginning. Would I maybe share a series on that? If that is something that you are interested in, or you know someone that would be interested in, let me know in the comments. I'd like to know how much of an interest there is out there for something like that. I'm happy to share that if there is interest. Okay, see where we're at, friends? Now what we have is our last tree bough, and this one is going to go together very, very differently than these because it has to come to a point at the top, right? Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to tuck that over there, and we're going to take a look at our top tree bough. Okay, and you'll notice it's a different size than our other tree boughs, as are the pieces that go on the sides of it, the background pieces. The first thing we're going to do is take that fabric C, and we are going to press it. We're going to fold it right in half, and we're just going to press it. We're going to press a crease right in that middle. Okay. Now what we want to do is let's take our ruler and our rotary cutter. And this is where I need you to trust me from the perspective that I meant to bring out with me all of the sample top bow units I made. They are many. So this turns out to be really the best, most straightforward way to make this bow work perfectly. So what we're going to do, here's our fold right here. And what we're going to do, and I'm going to cut so that you can see it your way. We're going to cut on the diagonal this way, okay? Right from this point to this point, okay? So that we have a sweet little triangle, okay? And I'm going to move this out of the way so it's just not in my space, so I don't want to get confused. Now look what we have. We've got our little top tree bough right there. So let's put that right there. Now let's look here at our other two pieces. I don't know about you. I like to have my pieces nice and flat. That needed a little pressing. Okay, so I know in my case, I want this fabric here and this fabric here in accordance with this illustration that I made. So now what we need to do is we need to cut these as well. So if I want this one to represent this space, then I'm going to cut on this diagonal line. This is going to be waist, but this is going to be my piece. And the reason we need to do two of these, even if you're using the same fabrics, is you need to have one, they need to be mirror image. And so there's not an easy way to do it by just cutting one in half. Okay, so I'm going to cut this one right on the diagonal, right across those 2 points. I'm going to take this one and just move it aside. I'm going to put that right there just so I know right where it's going to go. We're going to do the same with this one. Only this one we're going to cut it like this so that it can fit right in this spot. Okay, I'm going to take that right out of the way. Did I do it right? No, this is the one I need. Take that one right out of the way. Okay, now what we're going to do is we are going to take our right hand triangle, and we want these points to line up on this end here. Remember, it's going to flop over like this. It needs to. All of this extra, it's okay. it's going to flop over here. It's going to be extra right here. And that is okay. That's just the way we want it. But we want these 2 points to be together. So we're going to sew a scant 1/4 inch right here, okay? And what we want to really be careful of is let's not stretch here, because this fabric is on the bias or on the diagonal. Where am I at here? I need to go this way. I just want to make sure that we're giving ourselves really, we're letting our presser foot and our feed dogs take our fabric versus twisting or pulling. Okay, so nice scant 1/4 inch right here. Okay, really gentle. And then what we want to do is pull this out, and let's go ahead and press toward the background triangle, okay? Again, right here, we're just easing this piece of this fabric over, not doing a lot of stretching. And then we're just going to press that there. And we've got all kinds of little tails here, all kinds of them, okay? Right at this minute, we're not going to worry too much about it. I just want you to just kind of visualize how that looks, okay? So that your block looks the same way. I don't like to do a lot of trimming right here, because then you go, wait, what? My block doesn't look like that yet. Okay, so then let's do the same thing on the other side, okay? And we're going to sew at a scant 1/4 inch on that, from that edge as well. I'm sewing on from the point first, but I'm just being careful. And again, just letting that machine take that fabric so that we're not doing any stretching. Okay, so now I was looking for my thread cutter. My other machine has a thread cutter. I'm sorry, Jane. I love you just the way you are. You don't need to have a thread cutter to be wonderful. Habits, though, habits. Okay. So now what we're going to do is the same thing. We're going to press toward the background triangle. Okay. We can press that center crease right out if we want. We don't need that anymore. Now when we talk about trimming, yeah, we can go ahead and trim that. Let's go ahead and trim that off so it just doesn't represent, it won't show, but it's just an extra piece of bulk that we don't need in there. Okay, so now you can see where we're at, and there's your top bow. What we want to do is get our ruler and be trimming. Remember, this is like a flying geese unit, really. It is a flying geese unit. It's just an elongated one, right? So let's go ahead and center this at a quarter of an inch, our edge from a 1/4 inch from that point, okay? So that we've got some seam allowance up there on top. And that is going to be right at about 3.5 inches from the bottom, okay? So let's go ahead and trim that right there. Okay, and then we need to trim our sides. And what we will have is a 9.5 inch unit by the time we are done. So let's go ahead and square this edge up. We know this is nice and straight because we just cut it. So let's square this edge up right here. And then let's square this one up. And let's make sure that we are looking right about 9.5 inches like the other tree boughs. Yep, pretty close. So then we'll get that lined up. And we'll trim that side off. Make sure we're nice and straight. Our lines are lined up. There, and there is our top bow. Okay, right there. And then we are ready to join that to the top of our little tree. The same way with a scant 1/4 inch. Also, I was thinking this would be a lovely little gift as well. You could make this little tree, and then just if you ate, because it's such a small project, if you've got some leftover batting, you could make this a lovely little gift for someone that you love, um, for their holiday decor. And then you could just make it like a little mini quilt for a wall, right? For a wall hanging. We're going to go ahead and press to that top bough. And look at our little friend. Isn't it great? I hope you love it. And I hope you will share your blocks at our Facebook page. We're having the most fun over there, being so encouraging of each other. And it's just a really great space to learn and ask questions and share and feel confident in the quilters that we're becoming. I hope you had a great day today. I hope you had a great time with this video, and I'll see you next time.